the at the SBA Columbus District Office and the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University will be presenting. So this first training is titled, So You Want to Do Business with the Government. So this training is going to take us all down a journey of how to get started with different levels of government considerations as you're looking into government contracting. And then the second part is on January 29th. And it's same time from 10 to 11:30, and we're going to be talking about technical considerations for government contracting. So we're going to get more into some of the technical aspects of getting started in government. But just what does it mean to be procurement ready? How do you market yourself? What are some of the compliance requirements? So that's the technical aspect of the January 29th training. So to get us started today, we are going to hear from Sharon Hopkins. She's the program manager for the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University, and she's going to give everybody an idea of the services that are provided by Apex Accelerators. Sharon?
Great. Thanks, Jill. Um, we're so happy that you were able to join us today, and we hope you will learn a lot from this event. We intend to I think Matt Slavic will be doing the presentation, and he's going to take you out and show you some real live databases and how to search them and a couple of things. But before we get to that, for those of you that are not aware of the Apex Accelerator and what our services are, we are a grant-driven program out of the Department of Defense, the state of Ohio, and then for us, Ohio University matches funding from those two entities and provide provide the service that I'm going to tell you about free to Ohio businesses. We at Ohio University actually serve 61 specific counties in Ohio, but all 88 counties are served by an Apex Accelerator. So we can help you find the right person, the right team. So with an Apex Accelerator, our mission in life is to help you as a business sell to to the government. So that includes local, federal, and state. I think today we're looking more at federal government than anything else. But we do training such as this to assist you. We do one-on-one counseling, and we provide events, networking events for you to participate in. We walk you through RFPs if you find a request for proposal and you don't understand it or you need assistance, you need guidance, some background, we will help you with that, explain things, um, and then walk you through the proposal process. We will hold your hand as much or as little as you like, and we will then be there as you perform on that contract. If you have any issues, we can often help with that. Most generally, the issue is how do I get paid? And we can help with that because that tends to be the biggest thing once you perform is, sometimes you don't understand the government system. So we can do that as well. We're here to help you all along the process. We also talk to you about any set-asides and certifications that you may qualify for, and we can help with that as well. If you have an innovative idea, we can also help with looking at government funding for those items as well. So anything related to selling to the government in almost any fashion, we can help you with. And we have a network of resources and networking partners such as the SBA. So even if it's a question outside of government, we can often get you the correct information. So with that, I think Jill did mention please stay muted and keep your cameras off today. Matt Slavik is our the Ohio University's Central Ohio Procurement Counselor. So he has specific counties in Central Ohio that he works with. And if you happen to be in one of his, you will be lucky to have him. He is a great counselor. So if you have questions as we go along, please put those questions in the chat and we will ask Matt those questions as we go on from here. So with that, Matt, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's staying warm in what feels like the first week of real winter, at least in Columbus here. But I'm glad you guys could join us today, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here. As Sharon said, my name is Matt. I'm the procurement specialist with Apex in the Pickerington region / Central Ohio. I won't bore you with the definition of Apex and all that again. But essentially today's session is called, so do you want to do business with the government part 1? I want to emphasize the part 1 piece right up front. This is a foundational session. The goal today is to not overwhelm you, and it's not to turn you into a government contracting expert in just 90 minutes here. It's to give you clarity on whether government contracting makes sense for your business, which level of government might be the best fit, and what realistic first steps look like. I'll also mention up front that I'll be stopping a few times during the presentation to share my screen and walk through a couple of examples at, I think, each level of government, as long as we have time for it. But I find this topic, at least for me, makes a lot more sense when you can actually see the systems instead of just hearing about them. And especially with government contracting, there's always different registrations or different new sites that you probably haven't heard of yet. And so I'm just going to try to showcase a couple of those. Another side note, I have been told I talk pretty fast in the past, so if you need me to slow down, please let me know. The slides will be sent to you after, and I have a couple of hyperlinks in here. If you're looking to find out, where some of these sites are, you can use this as a reference. But we will get started. So here's what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about what it really means to do business with the government, because that phrase gets used a lot and can mean very different things depending on the context. There's plenty of different levels of government contracting. You have the federal, the state of Ohio, local governments, transit authorities, airports, universities, schools. There's many things in many places where people buy things that you may not know of. And so I'll explain how buying differs at each level on both sides of it. Then we'll spend some time on market research. This is probably one of the most important steps in government contracting and also one of the most commonly skipped ones. Isn't really the most fun, and so I understand why, but it is very important. But we'll talk about how to figure out who buys what you sell, how often they buy it, and at what level of the government you should be targeting based on that information. And again, Apex shout out. If the market research, if you need help on that or anything that I talk about in this presentation, it's our job to help you, and we're more than happy to do so. We'll also cover registration basics and what it means to position your business to actually bid on contracts. And then at the end, I'll briefly explain how Apex fits into all of this again and what your next step should be after today. So is government contracting right for your business? A bit of a loaded question here. Before we talk about how to do government contracting, it's important to pause and kind of talk about whether you should. It's not right for every business, and that's not a failure by any means. It may not be right for you at this time. It might be later down the road. Maybe you have the working capacity for local and state, or maybe you're ready to jump into federal. Every business is completely different, and the goal is to kind of break down what you should be asking yourselves. Things like, are you prepared for longer sales cycles? Especially at the federal level, things tend to be a little bit slow compared to the commercial world. And it's very normal for opportunities to take months from posting to your award. Are you comfortable with paperwork and compliance requirements that are ever changing in this landscape? There is more documentation involved and accuracy matters. Mistakes can slow down things or even disqualify you from bidding or winning the award. Can you deliver consistently and on time? The government values reliability and performance pretty much above everything else. That's the most important thing they look for. And with that, finally, are you looking for stability rather than speed? Government contracting is rarely fast money, but it can be very stable money. They're one of your most consistent customers. You know you'll always be paid. And so that's one of the caveats with it. If you're unsure right now, that's completely fine. Today should hopefully set the guide to answering some of those questions for you. So, understanding the government marketplace. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is the idea that the government is one customer. In reality, the government is thousands of customers. You have the federal government, the state of Ohio, cities, counties, school districts, transit authorities like COTA and Columbus, airports, port authorities. Some of these are traditional government agencies, and some are not as traditional when you especially go down to the local level. It is always changing. Not every agency buys the same. Not every contract's written the same. It all fluctuates. And so kind of figuring out your niche and going from there is very important. They all use different systems, and each one also has the different certifications or compliance reports. If you're a manufacturer per se, there might be more cybersecurity clearances you need to be able to bid on things like building the treads to a tank, things like that. And so it all changes, and it matters, your strategy matters going into it so you can stay on top of things. So with federal government contracting at the high level, you're dealing with agencies like the Department of Defense, GSA, VA, DHS, Department of Transportation, USDA, and many others. And especially depending on what you do, you may interact with some of these, you may not interact with any of them. They all kind of have their niches, but essentially federal contracts range from very small purchases all the way up to large multi-year contracts. You'll hear terms like IDIQs, set-asides, and schedules. I'm not going to go too deep into those today, but just know that federal contracting offers large opportunities along with higher compliance requirements and longer timelines. For many businesses, federal contracting is a long-term goal rather than a starting point. Usually these things are kind of tiered. The most important thing with government contracting is past performance. And so at the local and state level, you can build meaningful relationships with contracting officers who may open some doors with you. They may be able to vouch for you at the next level, that kind of thing. It's not the timeline everyone shows or follows. It's completely different between companies. But just keep that in mind. So with the state of Ohio, at the state level, the procurement runs through a system called Ohio Buys, which is administered by the Ohio Department of Administrative Services, or DAS. If you want to sell directly to the state of Ohio, you must be registered in Ohio Buys. This is where the solicitations are posted, bids are submitted, and the awards are made through Ohio Buys and another site, which is Ohio Pays. It's a separate registration, but essentially that just means that's how the government's going to pay you through the state. All contracts will be posted through Ohio Buys, and I'll show that later on. But state agencies purchase a wide range of goods and services, including professional services, IT, construction, trade, supplies, equipment, janitorial. Pretty much the one thing to know, while the amount or how often these contracts are posted differs between each level, pretty much the local and state level and federal, they're always buying everything. There's a market for everything. And so always take that away. So basically with this one, the state frequently uses competitive solicitations, state term schedules, and cooperative purchasing agreements. And basically, the caveat to Ohio buys, if you're not registered, it means you are not able to get state opportunities. As a separate registration, it uses your OHID if you have that already through your business for tax purposes. But the one sole requirement to Ohio buys is getting registered through Ohio buys. So local governments. Local governments purchase far more than most people realize. This includes the city of Columbus, Franklin County, surrounding cities and townships, school districts, and public utilities. Local governments often have lower barriers to entry than federal contracting, and relationships usually play a bigger role. For many businesses, local government is a great place to start building past performance quickly, and it kind of helps you go up in the tiers, as I mentioned before. If you guys aren't located in Columbus, being it's Ohio, pretty much it stays the same. Think about the cities around you. If you just type in a random city like Columbus, if you type in Columbus bid board or procurement portal, it'll pop up. Same with every county, like Cuyahoga County, they have a procurement portal. Start to think around the things that are around you. Like one of the things I mentioned here, the zoo. I had a client recently working with the zoo. And so there's things like that you don't really think of, but they're buying everything everywhere. And so you just kind of have to expand your horizons in a sense and do some research and digging to see if there's any opportunities in those places. Transit authorities in Central Ohio. They're major buyers and sometimes overlooked. Here in Central Ohio, we have COTA. Across Ohio, regional transit authorities receive a mix of federal, state, and local funding they're purchasing. Usually, I would say it ends up being vehicles, parts, construction services, IT systems, professional services, and they often value long-term vendor relationships. I will mention professional services a couple of times here. Essentially, it's one of my umbrella terms that kind of fits the bill for most things that, may be kind of niche, may not be, but airports and port authorities. Airports operate almost like independent governments. In our region, we have John Glenn and Rickenbacker, which I will just point back to Rickenbacker. They have been expanding how much contracting they're doing as of late. I want to say over the last 6 months to a year, they've kind of been up spiking it and they want to increase that. A little caveat, but the same thing with every other Ohio airport, they're doing business as well. They contract for construction, engineering, maintenance, IT security, concessions is a big one in the airport, and they can be a strong opportunity for local businesses if it falls under what you do. Comparing the levels of government. So how do you decide where to focus is a great question. Federal contracting generally means larger contracts, more competition, more compliance, and longer timelines, but usually means more money as well, especially depending on if you get on a multi-year contract with the government. State and local contracting often offers faster entry and smaller contracts and fewer administrative hurdles. Transit authorities and airports tend to be more specialized, but often value local presence and consistency. There's no single right answer. The right answer purely depends on your business. It's essentially with the levels of government, they all have one goal, and that's to get the job done, essentially. And they're also looking for what's the most affordable way to get this job done. And so it's kind of a fine line with bidding on contracts on how much you want to lower your price or raise it while remaining competitive and showing that you can do the work. And that's one of the consistencies through all the levels of government. So market research basics. Market research is one of the most important steps in government contracting. Good market research helps you understand whether the government actually buys what you sell, who buys it, and how often. It also helps you avoid spending time registering and bidding on opportunities that don't exist. There may be some sites with market research, for example. I mentioned manufacturing. There's a site for defense manufacturing called DIBS. Not everyone needs to be on that site. Not everyone who's a manufacturer probably needs to be on that site. It purely depends on what you are doing. And with government contracting, it is very easy to get buried in the weeds a bit and go down random rabbit holes on different sites. And, maybe you're looking at a GSA schedule and it doesn't really make sense for your business. There's plenty of things where you can kind of fall into these traps. And so you need to look at past awards, see who's buying what. Maybe you find an agency that consistently buys through your NAICS code or product service code. There's plenty of those, and you just got to keep an eye out for that. Okay, let me switch my screen here. This one, we're going to take a look at a couple of different sites. This will probably be the longest of the demos here. I'll kind of go through the process of federal market research, starting with NAICS codes. I personally use PSC selection tool. There's plenty of different sites that just list them out. This one, what I like about this so much is it can break down, and I have a link to this, I believe, in the presentation as well. This can break down, like if you search for janitorial, for example, you can search by keywords. It'll show up with different PSCs, which are product service codes. Essentially, the difference between NAICS codes and product service codes. NAICS codes are industry-wide, kind of broad, and they're just supposed to put a wide umbrella over a whole industry. So, example for this, you have janitorial services, and then with a PSC, which is more niche, you can see housekeeping, custodial, janitorial. PSCs are meant to break it down, and with PSCs, it should be a way to see what the government's looking for, what they're actually buying. The NAICS code is what you can search for the contracts. PSCs is a deeper dive into specifics. And so, especially on the manufacturing side, you might have a lot more PSCs than NAICS codes. If you have, specific niche parts, or you have a certain machine or something like that, they can all change. But with PSC tool, what I like about this is, let's say you see the housekeeping, custodial, janitorial, you can click on this. And then they give suggestions down here, and then also related PSCs. And obviously janitorial, I guess I can see the loose relation with aerial fertilization spraying. But so with these, they're not always going to be as accurate, but the nice thing with this is the NAICS code suggestions. And so you can kind of fall down a path of going down and looking at different things and seeing where it takes you. Like if I type in, I think some of the NAICS codes are under construction still, but generally they used to, if you click on these, yeah, so this one works. They'll have illustrative examples. So if you think this works for you, you can break it down and open it up, see some examples that go into this NAICS code, and you can add it, you may not, maybe you look at it and you don't know. But it gives you a general good starting place to do some research. And I know, back to the janitorial, they're not all like this, and I think this only happened a few weeks ago. I think they're updating the site or something. Generally, all of these should have an industry description, but some of them are missing them now. And so hopefully that changes again soon, but it's a good way to break it down. Another thing with NAICS codes, when you look at a NAICS code, you can break it down in a couple pieces. 56, for example, is like a very broad, like if you search 56 as a NAICS code on SAM, something will pop up. It'll be a way wider industry. And as the code goes further down, that's where you'll find the niche. So let's take that one. I need to log into SAM. And SAM will generally be one of the first places you start your market research. This is where, if you're bidding on contracts, this is where it's going to be at the federal level for the most part, unless you fall under one of those sites like DIBS, for example. But basically, you log in, go to search. You will hit contracting, contract opportunities, and we can just put in 56 1720, I think. Yep. You put it in, and these are all the contracts currently out there, 234 results for janitorial. Essentially, you can look through all of these. If we look at this one might work. Let's see. Yeah, so not all the time will they have a product service code. They might have a couple when they post, they might have none. But when you're starting out, this is a good way to take a look if you're trying to figure out what code should I be using. Well, you know, you do janitorial, for example. You can look at some of these contracts and get an idea for product service codes. You might see a different NAICS code even in here too. But essentially, I'm not going to go too deep into bidding, but just a quick look at this. You can see when offers are due. You can see if it's a solicitation actually or a request for information. It'll break it down there. You'll see your description. You'll see the points of contacts. The most important thing usually is right here at the documents. If you find something you want to bid on, you'll have to download all of these. This will have your bid paperwork. It'll have a breakdown of what you need to submit. It'll have a breakdown of how the contract works in a sense. And so usually you'll just hit that download all button and you'll work through those one at a time. So with market research though, if we go back, you can look at inactive contracts just to see what's out there. You can also do contract awards. If you have a company and if you have a competitor, for example, if you want to see if they're winning contracts, you can try searching them through here. Or if you know of a large business that just does business in your NAICS code, you can search for them here. And you can see who's winning these contracts, how much money they're for, all of that, just to get a good idea. Maybe you can see which department or which agency, if there's a trend here, which one you should try to target. You can see that the money's there. You can see who's winning these. We'll take this one for example too for the next one. So that's another way you can do some research. You can look and expand these. You won't be able to see their bid paperwork per se, like the person who won it, you're not going to be able to pull it up and see, you know, what they submitted to the government, but it's a
Hey,
good way to
Matt,
start.
I've been getting a couple questions for industry specific.
Okay.
And what I want to share with everyone, because I know once we get into an industry specific search, everyone on the call is going to want to have their specific industries searched for. So what I'm trying to tell everyone is like, this is training to give broad examples of how to conduct market research, and then to meet with your Apex Accelerator for individual market research. For example, FARA has a consulting in health economics. And I shared that there is a consulting NAICS code, but to do a really deep dive into something like health economics, that might be more geared toward an individual Apex Accelerator session. I don't know if you want to speak on that. And then the second part is what's the importance of an RFI?
Yeah, so with the first one, probably won't go too into the weeds on different industries. I agree. I think it's a perfect way to reach out to your Apex Accelerator. I will say with market research especially, we'll start with things like narrowing down what NAICS code works for you, what product service codes you should target. We'll walk you through the whole beginning process of things and basically go from there on what you need to basically target, where you should be looking, that kind of stuff. And it would be perfect for an initial meeting or a couple meetings into meeting with your Apex. And so, yeah. With the second one, you mentioned it's an RFI.
Yes, what is the importance of submitting a request for information?
So with the request for information, basically that's the government saying, hey, we want to make this contract at a later date, but we're looking to see whether there's interest. We have a question on if this is the best way to go about it. Or we just are looking for more clarity or specifications on how to create this contract in this industry. the perks of responding to it. Let's say you're a small business, maybe you're a service disabled veteran-owned small business with a certification as well. If enough small businesses reach out and respond to the RFI, the government can go, okay, we have a lot of interest here from small businesses. We should maybe make this a set aside so we can get that money to the small businesses. It will help them make their quota, and it will help make the bidding easier because it's not going to be open to the whole public. Just because you don't fall under a small business does not mean that there isn't money to be had or anything. There are most of the contracts don't have any set asides to them. And so being able to apply that, for example, with the SDVOSB, if you can get it so enough people respond their SDVOSB, it might go even a step further and they might make that a set aside for those companies. And so that's kind of the caveat with it. It may take some time, but doing it might reward you with it being a set aside. The contracting officer may realize that you responded and they'll be familiar with your company already, that kind of stuff. But with that, another way you can look for just another entry and get more information, if you go to entity information, I took the UEI from the company from the last one on who won a contract. You can search by UEIs. If you have a name of a company that you know, you can search by that as well. But we search for them here. We can pick it up. For most purposes, all of this stuff doesn't really matter to you. What you're going to want to do is to go up to assertions, and we can see what NAICS codes and product service codes they're using. And so with a similar business, if you realize, or maybe you don't, maybe you look to see who's winning contracts in janitorial, and that's how you stumbled upon them. It gives you a good idea of what they're using to target the government, and maybe you can find a PSC that you didn't know of or didn't think of and kind of go from there. Last one I'm going to mention here, this is more historical data, and unfortunately the website looks like it was made in 2005 and hasn't really gotten updated that much. It is basically for past contracts, historical data, and so you can do just keyword searches for contracts. And again, I apologize that I think it's kind of ugly. I don't know if it's just me, but it's good for information to get started, and you can look at different contracts and familiarize yourself with them. You can see, again, the trends of different, like with this one, there's multiple orders of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And so you can see, who's buying what. Not all the things are going to have award numbers or amounts. That's just how the data is reported, but gives you an idea of what's out there in a sense. And with that, I'll switch back to the presentation. So 1 second here. Oh, actually, really quickly again, sorry. Just to touch on this because I've mentioned it a couple of times. If you're a manufacturer, I'm not going to go into the weeds with DIBS. It is a lot, to be honest. You start dealing with part numbers and stuff like that. It's a whole different landscape. But if you're a manufacturer, you might want to take a look at it and getting familiar with it. It's a little bit more intense with SAM. You have to get cybersecurity clearances to be able to read schematics and blueprints in a sense. You have to log in. I think it's once every 30 days or they'll shut your account off for security purposes. But if you're looking, again, if you want to build the treads to a tank or something, this is the site you're going to be using. And again, reaching out to Apex, we'll be happy to help walk you through this stuff. But not going to go into the weeds on that one because it's a lot. Okay. Go. Okay. So market research at the state and local level, how it differs is pretty different. Especially at the local level, it's a little bit trickier. every local agency kind of reports their award data differently. Some don't really report it that much at all. And so this one's a little harder to find historical data on. Sometimes reaching out to Apex is a good suggestion. We pay access to different market research tools. Sometimes we can find past award winners or information on contracts, or at least find out if there's an incumbent to a contract maybe that you're going up against. There's things like that that we can sometimes find, but again, at the state and local level, things can get a little iffy on what's all out there. I will say, especially what makes it so hard, there's no single national portal. Each state and local government has its own system, and especially when you get onto the minute level at the local level, when you're looking at different universities, schools, things like that, they're reported differently, and not a lot of that information really is posted anywhere. So it's a bit trickier, but we will switch over here again though. I'll show what I can with this. Just so you can get an idea. At the state level, it's a little bit easier.
And also, Matt, I wanted to mention we're doing a webinar training on doing business with the state. We're going to have James Yagadich, who is I can't remember what his title is, but he's like the training coordinator with the state of Ohio on February 11th from 10 to 12.
Perfect. So let's switch to Ohio buys now. And so just to show you how easy it is to get here, you can put in Ohio buys on Google. It'll be one of the first things that pop up. You can go down here, you'll hit launch, go down to public solicitations here. You can type in the security here. I will say, if you hit enter here, it won't work. It always annoys me like that. And so just this thing, if you don't think it works, you do have to hit the proceed button to get in. But essentially, this is the bid board portal for Ohio. And so you can see all the different contracts right off the start. If you have curiosity in circulation desk package, you can click on the pencil icon here. You can see it's a quick quote, open for bidding. It's not an MBE set aside. The begin date, you have to have your submissions in by this time. You have a summary, who's buying it, and generally there should be documents here to download, but I do not see them. Oh, well, it's a quick quote, that's why. But if you want to bid on this, you're logged in. You have to be logged in, have an account. You'll hit this button, participate in RFX, and you'll be able to submit your documents through here. Everything essentially through this button. It'll all open up. But let's say I'll switch it up. We'll do construction for this one because I've been using janitorial here. So you can see construction, for example, just on a keyword search. You can see all the contracts that are out. You can make sure if you don't want them awarded, or if you do, if you're trying to do research, for example, you can choose to have them awarded. If you're an MBE and you want to see what's out there for you, you can filter that more. If you only want to see contracts that are open to bid, or quick quotes, things like that, you can do that as well. With the state of Ohio, for commodity codes, they use a different code from NAICS and PSCs. I think they're UN PSCs, the United Nations Product Service Codes. And so you can specify down further through here. And you can kind of have a general idea. You can expand it to make it further down, things like that as well. This works pretty well, and you can go from there. So with that, I'll switch over to have it in line here, the city of Columbus. And so again, Columbus bid board, that's all I put. It's that easy. Put it in for any city, any county. You can do procurement portal if you want to. Should be one of the first things that pop up. You click on that. You can see all this stuff. What you want to look at is bids and solicitations or RFPs. You can click on RFPs. And you can see this one, there isn't a whole lot. You can view and submit bids this way. You can see what projects are listed, what's been awarded, that kind of thing. If you want a subcontract, for example, to get started, you might be able to see who's winning these contracts, reach out to them that way, pull their contact information, say, hey, I see you want a construction contract for a new building in Columbus. I do plumbing. Here's my capability statement. This is what I do. I would love an opportunity to sit down and speak with you about this, that kind of stuff. These are all avenues to not only get past performance and get some experience under your belt, but it's also a way to get paid. And so keep that in mind. And then keep on going here. City of Columbus. Oh, I've already been there, but we can still do it this way anyways. You can see the current ones for the City of Columbus here. Another way to take a look at it. And then you click on this, it can expand it. Won't go into the weeds again on that one. But same thing with this one though. Columbus actually has the closed request for quotes. And so this is a way if it will load. This is a way to get an idea of what's been out there. This is already passed. If it has no attachment, probably not worth your time to look at. But if you're trying to look at past contracts in a general area, if you see an attachment, it means it has documents with it. It's a good way to go about it. Okay. And then we'll look at Franklin County here. Again, Franklin County bid board. It's all I'm typing in. You can do this for any county that you're located in. You can see what your county's buying. Franklin County generally tends to be a nicer one. I will say with other cities and counties, some of them are a little bit rougher than others, but essentially you can see these are the current contracts out here. I will say there's usually not a mass amount of contracts, but there's a consistent amount. There's usually 10 or so, I would say, consistently posted through this, especially at the Franklin County level. They're not buying as often, I would say, or as much, but there are opportunities to be had here. And again, I'm not going to go through every county, but any of these, we can do the same thing. You can see what's out there. And we'll switch over now back to the presentation.
Hey, Matt, before you do that, you may want to jump on our website and show them
Oh, yeah.
our procurement website where we list local entities.
Absolutely.
Sharon, I actually took a look at that when you posted it in the chat because I hadn't seen it before. It's great. I'm going to use that for the Ohio Business Matchmaker, finding procurement people.
Oh,
I think it's really well done.
thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see here.
We really don't send people back to our website near enough. And there are some great things in there. We don't have everything. Obviously, we can't necessarily, but it certainly will give you a start.
Absolutely. With this, just going off to resources and web links, we have different bid sites based on regions. And so you can look through to see if we have your port authority, your county, city, etc. Again, it's hard. There's so many. It's hard to reach everything. Definitely a good place to start though. Thanks for pointing that one out. It's definitely gives you a good general idea of what's around. As you can see, this is only one region still of all of these. You can break it down further with what's at the state level and all sorts of things here.
And
But
before you
definitely check
switch
that
back
out.
over to the presentation, we did get a question that's pertaining to state of Ohio.
Okay.
So when you were talking about state of Ohio contracts, Kara had the question, do these types of contracts require you to be certified through Ohio as an MBE, WBE, or is being registered with SAM.gov enough?
So with that, if you are an MBE through the state of Ohio, that's awesome. It's a set aside, and you might be able to find set aside contracts solely for the state of Ohio. All you need to do is be set up on Ohio Buys. It's open to everyone. while you may not have set asides, I know with the state of Ohio, there's been talks about opening up how many certifications have set asides. I don't think that's turned out to be anything just yet. But MBE is one of the confirmed set asides. And so you will see MBE contracts posted regularly. If it's an MBE set aside, obviously only MBEs can apply to it, but anyone can apply to most of those contracts on Ohio Buys as long as you are registered through Ohio Buys. Some of the contracts you'll find on there, one of the prerequisites prior to, it'll say it in the documentation too, it'll say prior to submission, you should be set up in Ohio Pays. It's the same thing. It uses your OHID, and basically it's just the payment information. It says, hey, if you win this contract through the state of Ohio, how do we pay you? That's another requirement you usually will need. But that's essentially it.
And I just want to make sure that to talk about the difference between like Ohio Buys and SAM.gov. So SAM.gov is for federal contracts only. And so SAM.gov, having an active registration there will give you access to federal contracts. So it's Ohio Buys. The state of Ohio recognizes the MBE and WBE certifications, and that would be just for state of Ohio contracts.
Right.
So there's really no reciprocity of the certifications between levels of government.
Yeah, I will say I think there's some things like I think with WBE there's like a council that I think you can pay for, and I
No,
think
you're right. Thank you. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they will try to fast track it, slash if you get one, it's reciprocal to the other. But with the essentially, yeah, with the federal, you have women-owned small business, which is different from women business enterprise at the state level. They don't go hand in hand. Granted, if you apply and you're certified through one, chances are you can apply and be certified through the other. It's just some more paperwork. But these certifications do pay dividends, and so if you can do them, I would absolutely recommend you do them. But it will just take some more time going through those processes. Let me switch back over here. And as far as demos go, those are the two lengthy ones, so bear with me here. Let's just switch back. Okay. So registration basics. Registration is required to bid and get paid, but registration alone does not equal readiness. Your registrations control how buyers find you and whether you're eligible. And so we've mentioned SAM.gov, Ohio Buys. I think for the Franklin County Bid Board, you have a quick registration just to make an account to bid on them. Each one has a waiting period. And so if you're thinking about going for federal, I'd recommend getting set up in federal. Granted, depending on how many registrations are coming through or renewals, you're looking at 3 to 5 business days, but you don't want a contract that it's due in 2 days and you're not set up on SAM. And so if you want to target these things, that you expect a waiting period, and with that, you should kind of try to look forward a little bit and try to get those set up. So federal registration overview. At the federal level, SAM.gov is mandatory. Accuracy matters. Errors can delay awards or payments. And so it's a lengthy registration. I've listed a couple things that you're going to need. I would say, depending on your tech savviness, I've gone through SAM registrations in about 30 minutes. I've gone through that taken an hour plus. Apex, luckily, usually what we do is you can share your screen and on a Zoom call like this, and we will walk through that whole process with you. If you have questions during it or need some clarification on things, we do SAM.gov registrations a couple times every week practically at this point, I imagine most of us. And so we're pretty quick about these things. But yeah, that's the one that matters. When you go into specifics, there might be other things like DIBS, but the central one is SAM.gov. Okay, and so with this, Ohio and local registrations, I have All these, by the way, are hyperlinks. And so after this, if you guys get the presentation, if you want to know where I went or just a starting point, you can click through all of these and it should take you to them. I have CMH Airport, Ohio Health, Ohio State University Purchasing Department. All of these are a good starting point for state and local. For local governments, obviously, all these are separate vendor portals. You might see every now and then, I think it's BidNet Direct. That might be a site where some of these get posted. And that can be a more centralized segment, but for the most part, these all have their own different portals and they go from there. So positioning your business to bid. Being registered does not mean you are ready to win. It's a step in the right direction, but there's a lot more work to be done. Positioning includes a clear capability statement, which I'll show later on here. Appropriate NAICS codes, pricing awareness, and understanding prime versus subcontracting roles. So what that means, in a sense, pricing awareness. You may have a lot of overhead costs that you aren't able to cut down, which is going to make bidding a little bit trickier. Maybe you can get certifications to ease that because they can be usually more lenient on price. Maybe you can look at cutting some of those costs so you can do it for cheaper. Maybe you realize you can't take a big job, or maybe you can only take big jobs to make it worth it. All those things have to be asked about and thought of prior to going into this. And the same thing with prime contracts versus subcontracting. There may be, I've seen companies who only subcontract. I've seen companies who only prime. Prime contract means that you're the sole person responsible for the contract. Subcontracting means you're doing a smaller part of the whole contract in a sense. And so they're all different ways to go about government contracting, which means there's a lot of different ways to enter and get into this space. But they are just things you'll need to think of. So some common mistakes. Registering everywhere with no plan or strategy. It's important to register on the places you want to be, but again, if you're not a manufacturer, there's no reason to be set up on dibs. And so there's things where you can bounce questions off of Apex. If you're curious is this worth my time? We'll tell you straight up if you should focus on it or it's not worth it. Not everyone needs a GSA schedule in a sense. Too many NAICS codes. When you go to a thing, and if they absolutely fall under what you do, then there isn't an issue with it. But if you go into a mindset of, oh, well, I want to pivot to do this, but I'm already doing this. There is a sweet spot for how wide you expend that umbrella. And there's also a sweet spot where you hone it in a bit. Not too much information can be bad sometimes in a sense. If you're bidding too early, if you are bidding blindly and you accidentally win a contract or you purposely do it, but you're not fully set up, you don't have your banking set up with these things, you're not going to get paid right away. Maybe you have to talk to your bank about taking out a loan until you can pay it off once you get paid by the government. You need to kind of think through all these things because you don't want to get, you finally break in, you get your first contract and you're not ready to fully go into it full steam ahead, and it doesn't pan out. The worst thing you can do in the government space is you have a failure to complete in a sense. You don't want that. It definitely makes things a lot harder. These are all avoidable though. Again, talking to Apex, we can walk through these questions with you. We can sit down and kind of make sure, post-bid, pre-bid, you have everything, all the tools that you need to move forward in this. Okay, with this one, this will be quicker, promise. This one, we're just going to be taking a look at some capability statements because I've mentioned them now. So, another shameless plug to Apex here. This is ours. Obviously, it will have some differences, but you can see the gist. We don't have a past performance. That's an important section, but I just want to show you can make these things look nice. It's possible. One of the big things is core competencies. This is what your company does. It's a very important section. You can put some graphics on it. The most important thing is it's one page. Think of it as a resume. there's a fine line to things where you don't want to bog it down with too much information, and the contracting officer sees you have 3 pages of capabilities and they'll move your capabilities statement from one side of the desk to the other and not touch it again. There's things like that you have to think of. We'll switch over to this one. This one, a little bit uglier, but some good information just because it's not fully fleshed out. Essentially, what you need is you have your company name, a logo, contact information, your core competencies, your past performance. These are the contracts you've done. If you don't have any federal, local, or state contracts, commercial is fine. I would just absolutely, the second you start to win those, replace them. It goes up in tiers, right? If you're doing federal work, you probably don't want to keep listing your local contracts. If you get a local contract, absolutely list it. Hopefully that you can show this to a contracting officer at a networking event or something like that. And hopefully you can replace that local contract experience with a state one. And you can move up the tiers. Your company data, this is just your information. If you have certifications, what NAICS codes you're in, your cage code to show that you are registered in SAM, whether you take credit cards, that kind of thing. And then differentiators, this is one of the trickier spots. This is supposed to be what sets you apart from the competition. Think practical and realistic. Like you want actual things. Like if you have a niche technology, if you have a niche way of doing things, think of things that actually stand out, not in the vein of hard workers or things like that. Everyone will say that about their workers in a sense. This is the thing where you can brag a bit in a sense. You want, so they look at it and they go, whoa, wow, like I've been looking for a company that does X, Y, and Z, and I don't see it very often. Past performance and differentiators, I will say, especially past performance is the most important. Differentiators is probably the second. This is where you can set yourself apart from who you're competing with in a sense. But with that, we'll go back to the presentation. Again, that was a quick one, just so you can get an idea.
We've had a couple of questions going through the chat. So one is how do we find subcontracting opportunities? I don't know if you touch on that at all.
Oh,
For
no,
this one.
I can though.
Okay.
So
And another one, I'm recommending that the attendee email me. She's having issues with sam.gov access, or she's wanting to apply for a one of SBA's federal certifications. But just while I have Apex Accelerator on the training, so for SAM access issues, is it more submitting a ticket now? Or is the
yeah,
Federal Service Desk still taking calls?
yeah, I will say it will take some time. If you have questions on how to go about it, we're more than happy to walk you through the steps of submitting a ticket. I've done it a couple of times where I'll have the client share their screen and we'll open up the online chat support window and we'll just walk through it together for a while. The Federal Service Desk, as far as I know, is still doing their stuff.
Okay.
It sometimes takes some time, but yeah. With
All right. Thank you. Yep.
And often too, Jill, by them reaching out to their Apex counselor, we can do a share screen with them because sometimes the problem is they just don't know where to go next on the website at sam.gov.
And see, this is great. I love the interactive questions. See, to everyone that's on the call, sam.gov registration issues are common, and your Apex accelerators can help you with it. I'm getting a couple of comments too on what do we use capability statements for, and can I get a sample?
I have my email at the end of this. If you want to shoot me an email, I can send you some templates. Capability statements, essentially, it's your one-page business resume. They're used a lot at networking events. If you're thinking about going to the Ohio Business Matchmaker in Dayton this year in April, or at the end of April, I would print out a lot of those and bring them there. It's essentially, networking is one of the most important things in government contracting, whether you're meeting prime contractors, other businesses that are small, or just contracting officers at the matchmaking events. You hand out your capability statement, and it's a way of them remembering who you are. They have a list of your capabilities right there. If a contracting officer is struggling to find someone to fill a bid, they might flip through these things and say, oh, I remember meeting this person. They spoke well. This is their capability statement. It looks solid. I might reach out to them and send them a message asking if they had any interest in bidding in this. Some contracts at the more so federal level than state may ask you to attach your capability statement on submission. They might just make it a sole requirement to do it. And so having that in your back pocket ready to go is also important.
So,
And-
sorry.
I was also going to add to that, Matt. If you are responding to a request for information,
Yes.
often they will ask for a capability statement as part of that submission.
and we're going to go more into detail about capability statements also in the technical considerations for government contracting on January 29th. And we've gotten several questions since, Matt, you mentioned the matchmaker. I'm glad you did. I put the link to the Ohio Business Matchmaker in the chat. And the matchmaker will be at the Nutter Center in Dayton on April 22nd and 23rd. So click on that link. The registration for individual businesses, which most of you are, that doesn't open until March 1st. But going to the website, you have an idea of what the agenda is for the event, how much it costs, and then check back in with the website over the next 3 weeks or so because we're actively getting the buyers signed up so that you can see who will be there.
Yeah, and to build on the matchmaker, we have plenty of success stories statewide here. Not every connection you're gonna make that's meaningful is with the contracting officer. I've known a few clients that met each other. They've passed their capability statement out. One's won a contract later down the road. They've chatted after the matchmaker and they ask if they can subcontract for them. That is where a lot of meaningful connections are made. Everyone in that room is there to connect with you and they all want to succeed or see you succeed at the government level. With subcontracting opportunities, one of the sites I like is the SBA site for subcontracting. It's called Subnet. If you just type in Subnet, you'll see it. These are all contracts that are looking for subcontractors for a certain thing. It's not utilized as much as I personally would like, but like for Ohio, there's one out here right now where they're looking for someone to subcontract for. Subcontracting, the easiest way to do it is through networking. We at Apex, with our access to different databases that we pay subscriptions for, if you're looking to subcontract, we can pull a list of prime contractors in your NAICS code, whether that's nationwide or at the state level, Ohio or surrounding states. We can pull a list of people who are winning those contracts and we can get you their contact information and it will ultimately fall, unless we know them, we can make that connection. Ultimately, it'll fall onto you to reach out to them. All their contact information is public knowledge. Your SAM's public knowledge. So try not to feel weird about it. But you can reach out to them, attach your capability statement, say, hey, I'm a small business. I'm certified in blah, blah, blah. I have these certifications at the federal level. I do this and I see I'm trying to get into the space and I'm trying to subcontract. Here are my capabilities. I would love to schedule a meeting with you so we can talk about this more. You might get some hits, you might not. It's the way to go about it. And that's probably the easiest way to kind of break into the subcontracting space as well. But with that, we'll switch over to the presentation again. And we're almost done here, I promise. So, another shout out to Apex. Everything we've talked about today is what we do in a day to day. Any question you have, whether you think it's silly or it's very in depth, we're happy to answer it, or we're happy to point you in the direction that you need to go in a sense. Again, at the bottom bullet point there, very important. Did I mention it's free? We're completely here to help you guys. So if you have any questions, if you are an Apex client, but you haven't spoken to your Apex counselor in a while, you want to check in, say, hey, this is what I'm working on. What should I be doing next? We can help lay down the groundwork for you. Think of avenues to go about these things that you may not have thought of, and essentially just help you go through the processes. So key takeaways. Your next step should essentially be here. Essentially identify 2 to 3 target agencies, figure out who you want to target. If there's again, through the market research, if you notice a certain agency is the one that has all your contracts, you can find out, I don't know, similarities in their contracts, figure out how to bid on them, read their contracts. Each agency writes them differently. And so that's a way to go about it. Start your registrations on the sites that you want to take a look at after you've done some research, whether that's at the state or local federal. You can look through those things, and maybe you just want to start out at local. You should register to a few of them, see which around your region, figure out what are the most active 5 to 10 of those that you might want to register for. Maybe it's the 5 to 10 best sites out there. And just go about it that way. And so with that, we're wrapping up now, which we can move to Q&A. If you want those capability statement templates, my email's right there. You can write it down. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them.
We do have a couple more questions. If you wouldn't mind going to the Ohio Apex Accelerator homepage, because a lot of people are asking how to become clients.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
I got an interesting question from Antonio. So I can take that one actually. If we have our WASB certification, meaning my wife is majority owner, am I able to manage it for her? I asked because she's in school. The short answer is no, because the woman-owned business needs to be owned and controlled by a woman who has the highest officer position and is making day-to-day decisions for the company. She should be able to manage the business. So she still needs to be an active part of the business. I mean, you can definitely work together on it, but she needs to be a part of it as well. Again, do I need to have a certification to get a bid? I think that's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. So really quick, with getting to become an Apex client, absolutely check out the whole site. The important part is apex.ohio.edu. This blue button right here, it turns orange when you hover over it. Click become a new client. It's a quick, I don't know, couple minutes questionnaire of who you are, what your business is, why you registered. And so if you have a specific question, you can mention it and we can see it on our end, just so we can cater that initial meeting towards that. That's the important one. If you scroll down here, you can see all of our different trainings. These are free, mostly webinars, some are in person. They'll say it if they are, but these are all upcoming events that we are hosting or co-hosting or just speaking at, all that kind of stuff. And so if you're looking to learn more, you can figure it out here and go from there. With certifications, if you are eligible for a certification at the state or federal level, I would wholeheartedly recommend you get that certification to target those set-asides. You absolutely do not need them to bid and win contracts at the state, local, or federal level. Essentially, what these do at the federal level, there are set-asides, and what a set-aside is a portion of contracting dollars and a percentage amount has to go to certain set-asides from these agencies every year. And so they have a goal to put X amount of contracting dollars in the hands of service disabled veterans, women-owned small businesses, hub zones. And so if you can get those, you're limiting the pool that you have to compete with. If you don't, it's still completely possible to win these things. It's just whether it's a small business set aside, you're competing with all small businesses. If it's none, you're competing with prime contractors. It's fully possible to win these. You don't need them. If you can get them, I would wholeheartedly recommend them. But it isn't the end of the day if you aren't eligible for any of them. There's plenty of opportunities. The bulk of contracting dollars still, even with these set-asides, the bulk of these contracting dollars go to no set-asides. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's probably, I assume, 80+% at the federal level does not have these set-asides. And so it's completely up to you, but plenty of opportunity regardless.
And we'll be having training on federal and state certifications as a part of the Ohio Business Matchmaker webinar training series. We are doing that, and and I saw while you were on the Apex Accelerator site, Matt, that all of the webinar trainings are listed there. So we're doing that actually March 18th.
Oh, March 18th.
And I think you can already register for it.
Yeah, right here.
Yes, so that one is for that March 18th training. We'll talk about both the state certifications, like we'll have someone from the state of Ohio present on that, and then either I will present on the federal small business certifications, which include 8A, HubZone, woman-owned small business, and service disabled veteran-owned small business, or my colleague Shonda Harris will be presenting on that. I do think certifications are important, but I think also that knowing your market, like which level of government is the low hanging fruit for you, is also very important, because we have so many businesses, or I've met with many over the years, that have all of the certifications at all levels of government, and they still haven't gotten a contract, and primarily it's because it's a lack of understanding of how market research works, how to find opportunities, how to get in front of the people that buy what you sell. So those things are also very important. We had someone just ask, can you hold multiple certifications? Yes. Mm-hmm. And I'll put just for I'm going to put in the chat for the federal certifications. The SBA has one portal now for all of the certifications. It's called My SBA Certifications. I just wrote it in the chat, but I'll find the link for it too, so you can take a look at it. And I think that was all the questions. If anyone, while I'm looking up the My SBA certifications site, if anybody has any questions, like just put them in the chat for me. Well, for all of us, actually. Okay, I put the active link in there as well. All right. Yes, go ahead, Antonio. You can put yourself off mute if you wanted to, or if you just want to type it in, you can do that as well.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I had a question about the certification that I had mentioned earlier. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, with my wife being extremely busy, I was wondering, like, because I know I could be certified for the MBE. Is that like a possible being changed to over,
Like a change of ownership?
Yeah, like if I take the 51% back and I take the majority owner back. Is that
Yeah,
possible?
you can do that. Yes. Yeah, it just would not be a woman-owned small business anymore.
Okay. That was like my biggest question, because seeing who has the most time, to help our business grow.
And when these are realistic considerations, absolutely. And you don't know if you don't ask. So
Okay.
like I said, there's no such thing as a bad question. There isn't. But for the woman-owned small business program, like the woman should be controlling day-to-day operations of the business. So I've had over the years multiple companies that are husband-wife owned, where the percentage ownership changes based on the availability of the primary business owner. So yeah, you would have to do the change of ownership so that you own the business 51%. And if you're qualified for the certification like MBE, you could apply for that through your ownership.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Absolutely. Okay, I see another question. Does having multiple, I think you mean Charles, certifications translate into higher odds of winning a contract? Matt or Sharon, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I would say it kind of does in a sense. If you are eligible for multiple, absolutely get them. Not every set aside is the same. And so if you're a service disabled veteran, woman-owned small business that lives in a hub zone and you have all three of those, you might see a SDVOSB contract under your NAICS code. You might see a hub zone one. That doesn't translate well. Essentially what that does is you're competing with less. There aren't as many contracts or companies that fall under SDVOSB set aside versus just a total small business set aside. And so it limits the competition pool a bit in a sense, but ultimately they're not also a guarantee essentially that you're going to win it.
That is true. And how contracting, and this is at the federal level, since we were talking about like service disabled veteran owned hub zone, those are all federal certifications. So how contracting officers use that to their advantage is if they see, say you submit a bid as a small business, but you also happen to be hub zone woman owned, service disabled veteran owned, they can take credit for all of them because the federal government, each agency has a certain percentage of, they have a requirement of doing business with, like 5% has to go to woman owned, 3% has to go to hub zone. And I know I'm saying these things quickly, but we're also going to have a training on it. So essentially, if they can um, find businesses that have all of the certifications, they'll definitely use that to their advantage. But usually it's through you as a business submitting a proposal as a small business set aside, or maybe you saw something as woman owned. If you get in through woman owned and they see that you're hub zone and veteran owned, they'll also take that, if that makes sense. So it's more beneficial to the agencies, is what I've seen. It does give you a competitive advantage, however. So Jeff wants to know, he has a SAM.gov login, and what is his next steps now that he has his login?
So I can show that here. Let me switch over. Uh, so you have your login now. I'm not signed in. I'm probably not going to sign in again. Essentially, the get started button here, you'll click on that. Actually, maybe I will, just so you can see it on your end. Please hold. Essentially, there's two steps or three steps to the SAM registration. The first step is making an account, and so you can log in. The second step is starting the process, and you are basically going for your UEI, your unique entity identifier. From here, you can hit add new entity. I think you can even see it from entities as well after you're signed in, and you can hit the get started button and you'll create an entity. The first half of it is you're going to need your location, proof of where you are if they don't recognize your business. You'll go through this process to get your UEI. Essentially, what that means is the government recognizes you as a legitimate federal US or legitimate US business. Once you have that, you can go back and do the rest of the registration, and that's to get a cage code. The cage code essentially means not only are you a US legitimate business, but you're also trying to do federal contracting, and you've gone through the processes to be approved to federally contract. And so there's 2 steps to it. Sometimes Sam will let you do the whole thing in one go if it recognizes your business as a business search. And if it sees, I don't know, if it shows up and all your information's right, you can say, yes, that's me. All the information's correct, and it will let you keep going. More times than not, you'll usually have to stop there and wait later on to get back in.
Thank you. I think, Tamara, did you have a question? I see your hand up. Did you want to ask it live? Okay, I saw you took yourself off mute. Go ahead.
Yes, hi everyone. My question is a 2-part question. So the first part is, I see a lot of contract opportunities for janitorial. Now my field is delivery, medical courier delivery or parcels, packages, whatever delivery. You don't really see a whole bunch for that field, but I see a lot of janitorial. So if I wanted to do a second business, would it fall under the umbrella of my delivery business? Or would it be separate? Like if I want to bid on some of the janitorial contracts, do I need a separate LLC for that? Or would my main one be like the parent company? How can
So,
I do that? That's the one question.
yeah, there's a couple ways to go about that. You don't need another business per se. I always kind of say if they're loosely related, you can keep it the same. I will say in terms of like your capability statement, I would make 2 separate ones. It can still be the same business and everything, but obviously between janitorial and delivery, your core competencies and differentiators and your NAICS codes and all those things will change in between. And so I would keep that in mind. I think as long as I think the concern with it is, especially on your SAM, you don't want to make it look like you're just, I don't know, you're expanding all over the place. I think having like a couple niches is completely fine, especially under one business. Sharon, I don't know if you feel differently on that, but
Yeah. So I agree if they're relatable. But you know, if you are making widgets and also I can't even come up with something like you're a manufacturer of widgets and then you're also going to offer janitorial services. Those are completely different industries, completely different. So, you know, when you register in SAM, if you're trying to do it under one company, then it's going to look like you're just grabbing at straws to do something and maybe you do nothing very well. If that makes sense. Because one of the things about government is they're always concerned about risk and they're concerned about if they buy from you, there's a risk you can't deliver. So that's, you know, and they need their deliveries. That's why they're buying them. They need what they need or their services. But I would also encourage you, Tamara, to go talk to your local small business development center because they can give you a lot more guidance about how to set that up from a business perspective, whereas we don't really assist with government set or you know with business setups. We only really assist you with government, so we can only really tell you from the government perspective if you're loosely related. It makes sense you could be you know under one business, but if you're completely different, then it's going to look odd to the government entity that's looking at you.
And I would just add also, what's the name of your business?
Tender Transit Solutions LLC.
So when you, that's the other, like when you have transit in the name of your business, it would just lead to, oh, this is a transportation company. I've seen businesses where they have like, if they're a consulting service or something more broad, then they fall with different business divisions within it. Um, Part of the key, I think, is also the title of your business and then how you word the services that you provide. But I agree with Sharon, like the small business development centers can help with that. In terms of, I don't know how long you've been in business, like if that would be a huge thing for you to change the name of your business. So there's just some things that you need to consider while you're making decisions on it.
Okay.
B-
I
but I've
drop them
seen,
to transit and just be tender solutions because
yeah,
the word
solutions. That's a good one
solutions
too. You're right,
is
Tamara. Yeah,
it's
that's a
like
good one.
expandable. It could be anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I did learn that somewhere. And when you say small business development center, is that Urban League? Because that's who I was working with and they put me with you guys. Would that be Urban
They,
Cleveland?
yeah, you're right. They have centers all over the state. I know in Cincinnati, it's with the Urban League. It might be with Cleveland too. But Charles Brown, thank you. If you look in the chat, Charles just put a link to the Small Business Development Center site. Oh, that's for Dayton. Okay, we'll find the one that's they're all over the state, Tamara. So you should be able to find one that's closest to you geographically. We're almost out of time. I say, did we answer your questions?
Yeah, the second one was I'm going to go for my federal certifications. I already have my state ones. I put them in the chat. So do you think it's best to keep work with Don to get certified on the federal level, or should I go through my SBA?
Don's great for that. You're going to have to go through my SBA certifications anyway, because that's the portal. Like you have to
Oh, okay.
upload your documents in there.
Okay.
But I also recommend do that market research, find out if the state is a better fit than diving in. I've seen so many times when firms just get all the certifications and then really don't, they haven't identified their primary customer yet. So keep meeting with Don, do the market research part of it too, which you're doing. So you're here. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for all you doing, all your help with the
No,
small businesses.
very good. I saw an interesting question and I know we got to wrap it up. So Scott had the question of can you be veteran owned and woman owned if the husband is a vet and the wife is the owner? No. The answer is no, because all of the federal certifications are based on 51% ownership. So both of you can't be 51% owners. It would be 50-50, right? If it's a husband and a wife, you got to choose one or the other. So you can have yourself, Scott, be 51% owner and then go after the veteran owns, or you can have your wife be 51% and go after the woman owns. But it would be back to Antonio's question, who is owning and controlling the business? Who's making day-to-day decisions for the business? Who's the highest officer? SBA will look at all of those things for the federal certifications.
And Jill, I do, and you may have answered this, but did you answer April Smith's question about do I have to have a certification to get a bid?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Matt talked on that.
Okay.
The answer is no, you don't. But it could be to your advantage to have certification, because you're part of a more limited pool of opportunities with it, but it's not a guarantee of a contract.
Yeah. All right.
All
And I
right.
think we have a pretty hard stopping time today. So
Yes. Yep. Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you learned something from this. I know that I did. That website, the whole listing of cities and counties that you have there is great. But I always love collaborating with all of you. That being said, go to the Ohio University at the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University's website to see like the other trainings that are being offered. There's links to the Ohio Business Matchmaker webinar trainings. Consider the Ohio Business Matchmaker attending that, and hopefully we'll see you on January 29th for our next training. All right.